Let's check to see how you did. So let's compare your details that you added to what was so difficult about Magellan's journey. So instead of saying he had to travel so far, maybe you can use higher level vocabulary like Magellan's trip was long, arduous, and full of peril. The crew encountered bad weather, terrible storms, shipwrecks, were forced to eat rats among terrible things, and suffered from starvation and the dreaded scurvy. In addition, they were attacked by hostile natives and eventually by Portuguese ships. Only 18 of the original sailors made it back to Spain alive. So I'm looking more for like that type of answer when you write your DBQ. Let's continue the story. The commander of the San Antonio, Captain Gomez, deserted and returned to Spain. On November 28th, the three remaining ships entered the new ocean: Trinidad, Concepcion, and Victoria. What should the crew name this new ocean? It seemed very calm compared to the Atlantic, where they had bad weather and shipwrecks. Therefore, Magellan named the new ocean the Mar Pacifico because of its apparent stillness. It's taken 1.5 years to get to point D, the equator, and on February 13th, 1521, when crossing the ocean, they were so short on protein that they ate maggots, which were growing on bread, rats caught on the ship, and leather belts. On March 16th, 1521, they reached an island in the Philippines with about 150 men left. Magellan was able to communicate with them through an interpreter, but the situation got ugly and a battle broke out. Lapu-Lapu led 1,500 Filipinos against 150 sailors in the Battle of Mactan. A wealthy tourist who had paid to be on the voyage, named Antonio Pigafetta, wrote a journal entry describing what had happened. When morning came, 50 of us leaped into the water and walked to the shore. The boats could not come closer because of the rocks. The other men stayed to guard the boats. When we reached land, the natives had formed in groups with more than 1,500. When they saw us, they charged with loud cries. Our musketeers and crossbowmen shot from a distance for a half hour, but uselessly. Recognizing the captain, so many attacked him that they knocked his helmet off his head twice. An Indian hurled a bamboo spear into the captain's face, but the captain killed him with his lance. He tried to grab his sword but couldn't because he had been wounded with the bamboo spear. When the natives saw that they had attacked, Magellan's face fell down. They rushed upon him with iron and bamboo spears and blades until they killed our mirror, our light, our comfort, and our guide. He had turned back many times to see whether we were all in boats as we retreated to the boats, which were already pulling off. Magellan stated in his will that if he ever died, his interpreter Enrique was to be freed. Enrique had been captured by slave traders from his new home, or his home islands, 10 years earlier. However, the new ship masters refused to free him. But Enrique escaped. The casualties suffered in the Philippines left the expedition with too few men to sail the three remaining ships. They would have to destroy one ship. Which one will they abandon? Well, May 2nd, 1521, they abandoned the Concepcion, burning the ship to make sure it could not be used against them. They went to Palawan, then to Brunei, Borneo, where they saw things that most Europeans had never seen before, like tame elephants, advanced cannons, pearls the size of hen eggs, porcelain, and eyeglasses. Then they finally made it to the Maluku Islands in present day Indonesia, also known as the Spice Islands. The Trinidad and Victoria loaded up with valuable spices and headed west for Spain. But one of the ships, the Trinidad, was taking on water, which means leaking. They couldn't fix it, so the ship stayed behind and eventually turned around and tried to go back east but never made it. They didn't realize that it would have been shorter to keep going west, and the Portuguese Navy eventually captured it. The small Victoria took the surviving crew members back to Spain. The only ship to continue sailing west was the Victoria. On May 6, 1522, the Victoria, commanded by Juan Sebastian Elcano, rounded the Cape of Good Hope with only rice to eat. 20 crewmen died of starvation along the African coast. Now, the Cape of Good Hope is down here. Oops. 13 more crewmen were abandoned in the Cape Verde Islands to make sure that there was enough food to return. On September 6, 1522, the Victoria arrived in Sanlúcar, Spain, almost exactly 3 years after leaving. All the spices, cinnamon, and cloves paid for the entire trip. Four crewmen among the original 55 on the Victoria finally returned to Spain in 1525. 18 returned in all. So, as you're thinking about this, I want you to think about the question: do you think Ferdinand Magellan should get credit for being the first to circumnavigate the world? Why or why not? Discuss with your group and then we'll share and compare. Remember, lots of details.